You got one motherfucking life. Make this motherfucking good. This is not a rehearsal. When I was in prison, I call my mom and I say, Mom, I'm back here. I may get a life sentence from this. The pictures are bad. They're telling me they're gonna give me another strike. I'm sorry, I love you. And she says, you've proven you can fucking hurt people. When are you gonna prove you can't? And I'm still having trouble with that today. I still do. I sat in the cell for fucking years, writing letters, ripping them up, writing them, ripping them up. Why aren't you writing me? Crying, years. I don't want to tell the stories about the inside, but that's just the only way I can tell you where I came from to share my story. It's really the introduction of who I am. But fuck that. That was just to lead them in. I had a message, and the message is more important to me. People want from me what I truly validate myself in with my heart. So I'm drawing in people that are like-minded to me. It resonates with them, my validation of self.
You mentioned kids. You post pictures, of you as a father.
I mean, it's my stepson, but he's my son. His name's Wolf, and honestly, it's the best thing in the world. He comes to me and he loves me, and I know he knows my energy, and it was something I wanted my whole life. Like, I wanted a family, and I have one. And it's amazing. It's a challenge. Dude, most people who come out of prison in 2 years can't take care of themselves. Like, I'm at a high level after 2 years, taking care of my family, running a massive corporation. The man who can take more pride in the steps that get him the result than the result itself, that man cannot be stopped.
New York City is a great city. Every block, every neighborhood is different. Such a powerful environment.
It's a town, I think, where there's so much opportunity. There's also a lot of pressure. It says you either make it or we're gonna go on to the next person.
New York has a mystique that tends to draw the most talented people in the United States and indeed the world to it.
I am back from New York City. It was crazy, it was noisy, and it was full of amazing personalities. And one of those includes Wes Watson. And one of his favorite phrases that really resonates with me is this: life is one big gratitude test. He also goes on to say that life is happening for you, not to you. And everything that happens in your life is a challenge that you can learn to grow from. Wes spent 10 years in the California penal system in hardcore lockdown, and he's lived to tell the stories about what that was like. And after struggling for many years inside with drugs, with violence, he finally decided to go within and develop his own personal space, his personal routine, and build the man that he is today. And it's no coincidence that less than 2 years out of being out of prison, when he's still on parole, he's making 6 figures a month with his business. And it all comes down to discipline, mentality, gratitude. I am a massive fan of Wes Watson. I think he's going to be one of the great speakers and influencers of this decade. And so it was important to me to get that man to New York City and sit down with him and share his message. And let me tell you, Wes didn't disappoint. He brought the noise. He can get real. He can get angry. He can get emotional. And he's giving it to you straight because he wants you to take your life to the next level. Pay attention to what this man has to say. I'm a massive fan, and you're going to see him more, I hope, in the future on London Real. And now, sit back and enjoy Wes Watson. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Wes Watson, the inspirational speaker, fitness trainer, and ex-convict. You grew up in San Diego, California, skating, surfing, and snowboarding, but then got involved in dealing marijuana. This began a downward spiral, which ultimately led to a 10-year term in the California penitentiary system. After your release, you created Watson Fit, designed to free people from their mental prisons and smash their fitness goals. Your YouTube channel, GP Penitentiary Life, inspires hundreds of thousands with your detailed and gruesome stories inside the penal system. Wes, welcome to London Real in New York City.
I mean, it's amazing to be here. This is the first time I've hopped on a plane in 12 years, And I mean, no better place. Thank you.
Dude, man, it's great having you, man. And it was, let me just say a few things first. Somebody showed me one of your videos 6 months ago, and it came up, and I saw this dude with no shirt on out in the sun in my town of San Diego, screaming, dropping science, getting angry sometimes, getting calm, and I was just like, I don't know if I can even get on this vibe. But I watched the next one, and I watched the next one, and then I started reading between the lines and listening more, and I just became a huge fan of you and everything that you talk about. I think there's a ton of knowledge in there. And I had a thought last night when I was coming home from the movie, the premiere, is that we have a guy that comes on the show before. His name is Dandapani, and he was a Hindu monk for 10 years, and then he quit, and he's come back and he's kind of dropped knowledge that he had when he was a monk. And I feel like you're kind of that equivalent, but maybe from the penal system, where
100%.
You were in a different reality, and now you're in kind of our reality here, and you're showing us things that we can't see that you saw. And anyways, I'm super excited. I'm so glad you came to New York City. I'm so glad you were at the premiere. And I can't wait to mix it up here. For anybody watching here right now, Wes has my fucking stamp of approval. So go to his YouTube channel, start watching his stuff.
Likewise.
Because I think you got an amazing energy out there. And honestly, I see massive things for you in the future.
It's going down for sure.
It's going down. I see you on stage in front of thousands and thousands of people.
No way it's not happening.
It's happening. Yeah. So I just want to be a part of it. I remember one guy I met one time says, some people invest in companies. He's like, I invest in people. Mm-hmm. Well, I do too, and I'm investing in you right now. So
I love it. Likewise.
How was that premiere for you last night?
Premiere was awesome. It was awesome. You touched all the topics that I touched, because we're all getting the same message. The guys who look within, we get the same message. When you're grateful, when you're seeking growth, when you want to change, when you want that transformation, you're getting the message from above. Gratitude is the only emotion that taps in to higher intelligence. So that same message you guys are getting is the same one I'm getting. So there is no Goggins, there is no Robbins, there is no Brian Rose, there is no Wes Watson. There's messages being delivered. They're all the same. So I mean, I can resonate with all of them. Anyone who's tapped in like you, I resonate with it, because they're the same across the board. They have been forever.
Yeah. The commonality of the human experience, which we can easily tune out in the day-to-day life where we're worrying about a bunch of nonsense. But we celebrate the people that kind of tune in. But like you said, it's the same message throughout time.
They're all hearing the same message. The people who aren't, they're just not taking the time to tune in. The material world will detach you from the spiritual. I spent a lot of time with no material gain. Zero. There was no way to gain in any material form. So the only thing I could do was seek within and build myself internally to create my worth. So my worth came from my conduct, my character, what I thought, how I practiced, who I pushed growth upon, who I transformed. And it just had to start with myself. So everyone's trying to push stuff they heard, not what they did. I'm just sharing my life. Like someone told me one time, oh, Wes, you're a good storyteller. I said, it's hard to fuck up your story. So you were up there last night telling your story for fucking like 20 minutes flawlessly about you coming to New York. And I was just like, that's magic, because the universe rewards authenticity. So I'm sitting there taking it as the full truth because you lived it. People miss that. People are trying to sell you a process, trying to sell you some business, trying to sell you some idea. The reason my word is so powerful is because I've lived to a T what I preach for 13 years. To a T, like literally. So the word became exponentially more powerful through the duration of the act. So I lived this way for so long, and people are resonating with it because it's just true. You're in your own fucking way. Adversity is gonna reveal a man to himself, and it's gonna teach him everything. And life is happening for you, good or bad. How could you denounce that from what I just went through? I just went through 10 years. It happened for me. I killed it now. Now I've shaped myself into the person I am today and the person who I aspire to be. And I mean, like I said, from Marcus Aurelius is one of my favorite books, Meditations from Marcus Aurelius. And he says, straight, not straightened. And so in that aspect, we're all okay. As long as we know we have to work on straightening ourselves daily through our process, our reflection, our ability to introspect, our ability to point the fucking finger at ourselves. The second we point the finger somewhere else, it just causes problems. We should all be pointing it at ourselves.
Yeah. And I was telling the story last night about coming to New York City to go after my dreams. And 8 years later, I'm waking up in a hospital room, after an overdose. And I talked through the next 20 years of me building my life back up and coming back to that same premiere. And like you said, I was just in the moment. There was no written speech. I was just trying to communicate for the first time in front of that audience. And I got a standing ovation before the goddamn movie. I didn't see that coming, you know?
It was amazing.
It was.
Because it was real.
Yeah.
It was real.
It was real. And your stuff is real. And so every day or two, you're dropping these 10-minute videos on YouTube and you're talking about parts of your story. I think a lot of what you talk about on the inside resonates with people on the outside, right? Is it always weird to you how fascinated people are of the inside? Or is it almost like when people tell stories of war because things are magnified in there and it means something?
It never has an effect on me. I don't want to tell the stories about the inside, but that's just the only way I can tell you where I came from to share my story. It's really the introduction of who I am. So people who are smart enough can connect the dots. People who are attached enough to themselves internally, they can get to know someone through, hey, I've been through a similar situation like that. And the thing is just being removed for so long, you were forced to build yourself or you were gonna break. A lot of guys go in there, they get hooked on drugs, they don't come out like me. Like a lot of them never discharge parole. They definitely don't turn themselves into someone who runs as a CEO of their own corporation and living in this certain manner. And that's its own challenge in itself because I did better with nothing internally. When I had nothing, I was happier internally. But are we able to juggle all these variables now? Build this business, be happier internally, build these people up around us, make sure everyone in our family and everyone around us knows how much we love them. This is the new man that is creatable, that we're after. We're after that man who can pull all this off. And so it just takes a level of just heightened ability to sense and know people. And the way we know people, because everyone always tells me, Wes, you're speaking to me. You're talking to me. Like every day, the stuff you say is to me. And I say, because I don't create content. I never create content. I deliver message that day. So I tap in through my process and then I deliver a message that day. And I'm 100% sure that message is delivered for people that are hearing it. So those direct people needed that message today. So they're saying, oh, you're talking to me. And I'm like, I am. And they're like, it's like, you know me. And I'm like, well, I know me. And we're all one. We're all the same. We're all the same. Nobody doesn't want love. But here they are. Here they are, just fucking with love, treating the sanctity of love, running it through the dirt, and wondering why they don't get it on the back end because they built up so much karmic debt in the love department. I mean, in just so many areas. Even karmic debt can even be just built up from not following the vision you're supplied. So you know when you wake up, Brian, you got to shape up a little bit. You got to do this. You're being told. I call it conscience congruency. So you're being told exactly how you're supposed to act today. If you don't act in that way, you're going to be punished. So the point is that karmic debt is going to build up and you're not going to be able to walk your path.
Explain karmic debt for people that don't know that concept, because it took you maybe 5 years in prison until you finally clicked and said, oh, that's karmic debt.
Well, karmic debt is easy. Karmic debt is basically through our negative and our positive acts, we're punished with time. People are like, what do you mean? You're punished with time. There's always 24 hours. But how productive are your 24 hours? Like, go get an argument with your spouse or go get an argument with someone and you'll see that you'll lose 4 hours of that day, maybe 10 hours, depending on how bad it is. And if you're losing time, you're clogged up in your head and you can't detach from that moment where you created some negativity on someone or you made them feel internally just shitty, you're being attached to that for an eye for an eye for exactly how much you put on them. So that through our negative and positive acts, we're granted time. We're just given 24 hours with our positive acts. With our negative acts, we're taken away an eye for an eye how severe the act was. So now I've done a lot of violence and had a lot of problems in my life. So I was punished for years with karmic debt. And you see those people who just can't seem to get ahead.
Right.
They're doing something. And you can find it. And once they erase that karmic debt, they'll move forward very quickly.
But that's happening because of the bad things they've done in the past.
Yeah.
The negative energy, the violence, the stealing, the whatever, and they're living that reality. And there's no way around it. Because most people wouldn't even understand that concept.
No,
They'd be like, that's not true. That's
whole
an
thing
Indian
is,
thing.
It's a universal law, but you don't have to believe in it. But what's the downside if you do? What is the fucking downside if you do believe in that? You're just a better person? You're checking yourself from within? The universe is in your heart. This is what it's in your fucking heart. And when you can just drown out everything and not argue with people and not have issues, you're able to just harness the truth and just the real answers. And if a man is right, his world will be right. My fucking life is wrong. Whenever everyone sees me, I'm erratic and I have like this behavior and I cuss a lot. That is my downfall. It's an alpha trait, but I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. But it does, because I'm morphing into someone who's not like that. And as I grow, it's gonna be just more calm demeanor and stern with self, kind to others. But I have to go back to Pena. When Dan says that kindness breeds a lack of accountability, it's fucking true.
This is Dan Pena, my mentor, $1 trillion man. When he says stuff, it resonates with you.
It's true.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is nobody wants to be hurt, but we only grow through pain. So embrace the fucking pain. Adversity will reveal who you are. When you're fucking deep within your workout or whatever, if you start going all bitch in your head with your self-talk and you're just like, oh, I don't want to do this is hard, this is that. Like, you get to know who you are right at that breaking point. And that's where I used to teach myself, like in the SHU, which is the prison inside the prison. You're cuffed up every time you leave your cell. You have to cuff up to walk into the shower. You have to work out in a dog kennel. You're in the cell by yourself. Fucking, if you don't have a cell, you're in there for 14 months, a year, not leaving.
You went 14 months straight in the SHU.
Oh yeah.
Without leaving your cell.
14 months straight in the SHU. But then the lockdowns were worse, because a normal lockdown from a racial-based riot, you won't even leave the cell. In the SHU, you go to a kennel and you work out and you can see people other in their cages. So everyone's working out in a cell-shaped cage outside. So the SHU, you get to go outside. But I've been on lockdowns that were 12 months, 15 months, not 1 foot out the door.
That's crazy. Most people can't even conceive of doing that. We drive them crazy.
But then I come out here, and a lot of stuff out here drives me crazy. Why? Why was I able to do that? And not, a lot of this stuff is difficult for me. Like just working with people who are too attached to the material world. It's because they don't have that spiritual connection to where I can relate with them deeper. And in the SHU, it was just me. I could control me.
Right.
And I'm noticing that on this trip to New York. I can control me in San Diego. I'm drinking my stuff at the right time. Everything's perfect. The second I get out of my comfort zone, I'm not getting meals. I'm not drinking water. Things are out of my control. And I'm back to being that bitch that I was screaming at in the mirror in the SHU. Right. But that's how I grew. Is I got in the mirror and I said, you fucking pussy. You look tough. You got tattoos. You're muscular. You look this way. You've hurt people. My mom said on a phone call one time, I just got a SHU term for a SBI, A1, which is all it is attempted murder, or serious bodily injury with a weapon. And I got one of those charges that got me 14 months in the SHU. I called my mom.
This is after you took a guy into the cell and ripped his jaw off.
Yeah, something happened.
300 stitches?
Yeah, something happened to where he basically looked like the Joker from the movie.
Right.
But and then I call my mom and I say, Mom, I'm back here. I may get a life sentence from this. The pictures are bad. They're telling me they're going to give me another strike. And I'm sorry. I love you. And she says, Wes, when are you just going to prove, you've proven you could fucking hurt people. When are you going to prove you can't? And I'm still having trouble with that today. I still do. And I say purpose over pleasure. I always say purpose over pleasure, purpose over pleasure. But what about in your fucking weakest point, in your weakest moment, when you are someone who's combative, someone who's argumentative, someone who is violent, in your weakest point? Are you able to choose purpose over pleasure in that moment, or are you glorifying the ones that work for you?
Right.
So I'm glorifying the ones that work for me. But in my moment, when I'm fucking argumentative and I don't want to hear it, and I get weak.
Anger's one of your vices, you said.
Anger is one of my vices.
I never heard anyone say that until you articulated that. I think a lot of guys would be like, oh, wow, I never realized it was a vice. Because most people think it's the drugs or the this or the that. But for you, it's something that actually makes you feel better. Anger does, but it leads to horrible consequences.
Well, you know, when someone talks shit to you or someone's wrong or someone's standing up to you and you shut them the fuck down, it's pleasureful at that second, just like any other vice. So you get that momentary pleasure and then you're just left empty. Then the karmic debt's ensued. You just automatically get dealt exactly what you handed them, if not worse. And the thing is vices are simply trading tomorrow's happiness for today's. So we're trading the future. We're living in debt. People don't understand that with vices and trading tomorrow's happiness for today's, they live a life of debt. When you live a life based on debt, it creates hopelessness. So then they wonder why they feel this way inside. It just, the only way, and I don't want to just say all these negative things. I want to tell people how to get out of it. So to get out of all this, obviously, just drop everything you know you shouldn't be doing. Don't justify it. You know in your heart. Don't be that fucking asshole who tries to fucking convince his heart of, who's trying to convince his mind of something his heart knows is lie. The biggest problem humans have, all of us, there's so many distractions, so many events taking place, that the biggest problem we all have is when we try to convince our mind of something our heart knows is a lie. Because we're like, oh, but this event happened, so fuck you. And it's like, no, motherfucker, do you love that person or not? Fuck that event. Fuck that shit. Go right in your heart. What if they died right now? Do you love them? And that's what just hits me so hard, because I'm able to go there. I do get angry. I do lash out. I do argue. And this is, I know it. And this is where my biggest change is going to take place. But I want to tell people, just go right into your heart in those situations and say, man, what do I want from this? Like, go to the end result. Like, you know your true answer, and it only lies in your heart. Anytime you're trying to justify with events in your head, that's not your answer.
Right. So go back to your heart, go back to the intuition. Don't try to say, I'm doing this because he did this, and that's when you know you're not being congruent.
It's not.
And you're going to pay for it later. You once said that any man that does violence knows he always feels bad afterwards.
Always.
You said you saw it in prison as well. I've never heard anyone actually say that, because
Always.
very few people get to do the violence. And we always think it's glorified. It's glorified in movies. Guy punches the guy out, he's the badass, but it doesn't work that way.
No. You're punished by the universe. There's certain things that are wrong, and it's a simple definition. Good or bad, positive or negative, is simply defined as helping or hurting. Done. Nothing else. Did you help that person or did you hurt them? And there's a fucking fine line when you're talking about being a motherfucking coach. So I know Dan knows it. I saw it in the interview last night where he said, where the lady stood up and I saw him cross the line and he felt it. He's like, because he got pissed at her. And she's like, what about my kids? He could have coached her with his dope ass way of coaching right on the line. But that's the problem with being right on the line. Like me and him and other people like that who speak the way we speak, and we're real strong, just alphas who will push that shit. I don't like to call myself an alpha, just someone who's a go-getter. But
why don't you like that term?
I don't like to elevate myself.
Because it's also, it glorifies bad masculine behavior
Yeah.
that can get you karmic debt.
I don't like that. I don't like to elevate myself. People would think that, but I really am. I don't. When I was in prison, I led by doing more. So I wasn't some dictator who was just telling you what you're gonna fucking do and you're gonna listen. I led by doing more. Like I would ask you to be up at 5 o'clock. I'm up at 2:45. I would ask you to do X amount of workout. I would do more. And the thing is that's how I led. I led by example. I personified the teaching. I got the results so they would wish to learn. People miss that one. People try to teach and they don't realize that the person who they're trying to teach is thinking, I don't want to be like you. Dan's a powerful teacher because his success.
And people want to be like him.
They want to be like him.
I get people all the time to say, Brian, my kids won't listen to me. My team won't listen to me. And what do you tell them? You say, why? Because they don't want to be like you.
I fucking get at them foul. Like I had someone on my coaching, on my All Access app, where we have a Q&A every weekend. We push each other forward. It's a collective consciousness. It's a growth space. We're all there to grow. It's like-minded individuals there to grow. And the guy said, well, I can't get my 14-year-old nephew to listen to me. I said, I wouldn't listen to you either. And he said, why? I'm like, because you're dropping the fucking ball. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're not living in a conscious, congruent manner. You're not creating the man you admire. So he doesn't admire you. See how we're all the same? Like I tell everyone, what I think the purpose of life is to create the man you admire in every way so you could just give him away. That's the purpose of life. So fuck all the other details. Like I'm working towards it. I dropped all these crazy vices I had. I quit actually committing that just insane violence. And
you quit for 6 years.
No
violence.
Yeah, just.
That was hard.
For me, for people think that's stupid, but for me it was.
No, it's not stupid.
And it's but they're like, well, what do you mean? You just fucking quit violence. It's like, but there's people who fucking live that way and people who don't, and people who have never committed no violence, it's hard for them to understand. But then they have a different vice that I try to tell them, okay, well look, the way you act when you're like this, that's like me. Like, so you black out when you're drunk, well, I black out when I'm angry, okay?
Right.
What the fuck? Can't you understand that?
And so people are listening and they're saying, well, people aren't listening to me, my kids aren't listening, my wife's not listening to me. It's because you're not personifying the person they want to be like.
Personify the teaching. So, but otherwise, that's why my channel is successful. I don't give a fuck to say it. I've created what I admire. And in today's society, a lot of people admire a guy with tattoos, with muscles, and who's successful financially. I mean, a lot of people admire that, but fuck that. That was just to lead them in. I had a message, and the message is more important to me because I don't go to the gym for fucking muscles. I don't give a fuck about that. I go to the gym to find my answers. I find my answers in that pain zone. I have to go self-inflict that pain on myself to find my answers and reflect. This is our modern way of digging deep within. We don't have to take ayahuasca. We don't have to do all this other stuff. That's one way. That's other people's way. But I would say the only way that's failing is you get so internally, and then so now that's just for you finding your way. So now the point is the other guy in the video would have to create his exterior in a manner that he could teach better. Because how are you going to get through to the people who are superficial? And that's not their fault. We've created them that way with society. How are you going to get through to them if you don't look how they look, dress how they dress, and like all the stuff they like? And you don't have to change who you are within. You just focus on the 1%, and you put out your message, and 10 million people are going to feel you nowadays. If you can elaborate your message deep enough, you're going to have, like what I got out, 30 million views or something on YouTube or something like that. I don't even care about that. But the point is how many lives were changed? I get 1,000 messages a day. Do I give a fuck about that? No. I want them to just become who they are comfortable with, so that was the whole goal. Like in prison, these guys were liabilities.
Who? The prisoners?
The guys in prison. The prisoners around me, my own white people who I'm in charge of, were liabilities. So for me to get out safely, since we roll together, if someone comes in and fights with you and you're white, I have to fuck that person up. There's no choice. And if I don't, I get fucked up. So the point is I had to turn you into such a internally strong person who's no longer a drug addict liability so that I could get out. Because you're going to cause us a problem. Right. You're going to go get that heroin fronted. You're going to come in off the benders in New York. You're going to get that heroin fronted. They're going to come up with that China White. You're going to sniff a line, or you're going to get that black and do a caldito, where they fucking sniff it. They put it in water and they sniff it back in their nose. And then you're going to build up a debt with the other races, the Southerners. And then now we're going to go on a riot. We're going to kill each other because I have to stand up for you.
Right.
So my way of doing it was the coaching I do now. I strengthen you through the process. I wake you up early. I get your wins. I start you off winning. So by the time you wake up, you have a choice to win or lose. And you want to get up and be your best, but you chose to lay it back down. That's a loss. When you choose to get up, that's gratitude. That's winning. You're happy. You're like, I did that. No one ever woke up early and did something productive and was like, fuck, that shit was so stupid. I can't believe I got up all early and was productive. But why do we fail to not do that every day if it feels so good after? So when you get up early, you read something that resonates with you, something that motivates you, that invokes your soul and brings out your spirit. And you're like, man, this just gives me the chills. I feel empowered by this. Just something quick, a quote, a little excerpt from a book you're reading, something that just hits you deep. And then you go right into your workout.
And that's why you're stacking those wins. So you got crazy wins by noon. And then the rest of the day, you're just like, all right, I got this.
You just got crazy wins by noon. And when you do that for 10 fucking years, 20 years, you're just a winner in your head. When you're consistently losing in your head, you can't think that you're all of a sudden not going to feel like a loser. You're choosing to lose in the areas you could win. So, I mean, while you're stacking these wins all day, the self-talk is just strength. And you're like, I got this. This ain't shit to me. This ain't shit to me. And we know that belief is the only thing that matters. I could say nothing correct up here, but say it with such conviction, people would be like, fuck yeah, I felt that. Because the universal language is energy. The universal language is frequency. It's the exchange, it's vibration. So you know that this person is speaking authentically, just like that they really feel what they're about. When someone feels what they're about, it just transfers that energy in a positive way. It also does it in a negative way. But stacking those wins, creating who you are from within is how I turn these prisoners from fucking massive liabilities into assets.
Right. And let's talk about that, because in prison, it's different than out here. Out here, you're trying to get these people to step up, but in prison, it's life or death for you unless you get them to step up. So again, I keep seeing this metaphor. Prison taught you all these rules where the consequences were magnified to such an extent where you had to have your routine. You had to invest in other people, or it meant life or death or a horrible life. And then you're taking everything you learned there and now putting it in practice in the outside world, which means sometimes frustration. because people aren't necessarily as in tune with what you're saying, but also you bring some different kind of knowledge. Talk to me about the way it works in prison, because the guys watching your vlogs understand all this stuff, but a lot of people don't know what you're talking about. Why are you talking about the whites? What about the blacks? Can you just give us a breakdown of the lay of the land when you go in prison, and then maybe go into more of what you're saying so we understand the stakes?
Yeah, when you come into the California prison system, CDC, you're gonna have to operate with your race. If you're GP, general population, you're gonna join a gang.
And what does GP mean? How can I be GP or not?
GP means general population.
Okay.
The other option is to be SNY, which is protective custody, PC. And so you can tell the cops, I want to be general population or I'm gonna be PC. It used to not be like that. To be PC back in the day, you had to say, I'm scared. Like I'm fear for my life.
Okay.
And then they would put you with other people. Now, what's happened now is the gangs became general population and the PC became the people who aren't allowed in general population. The people who aren't allowed in general population are child molesters, any rapists, a lot of crimes of those sorts, you just get stabbed right away.
If you went into GP,
If
they
you
would
went
kill
into
you.
GP, that you have to, if your cellie came in and you read his paperwork and it said he's a child molester, you would have to kill him or you would get killed. That's how it works. There's no way around it.
That's an ethical code that keeps these organizations together. That's just the way they believe as well.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's the way it's been for a long time. Is that right?
Yeah,
in the GP?
it's just been like that. And the thing is it just goes down to fighting too, and drugs, and just, it's a massive dictatorship. It's not they'll tell you, this ain't this is a dictatorship. It's not a fucking democracy. What I tell you goes, you're gonna say yes to anything I do, or what I asked you is happening to you.
And that's the rule. So I go in, I go to GP or the other one. The other one, if I go there, well, some guys will opt there because they're scared of GP, or they won't. But then they go with all the child molesters or rapists, and you got a whole nother
problem,
horrible experience over there.
Or they have gangs over there now too. But I don't know anything about that shit. But yeah, there's gangs over there. There's gangs over the whole system is. It's prison. These are violent people. It's flooded with crime, violence, and drugs. These are all the vices. This is what taught me.
Okay.
This is what taught me as I saw these guys who were supposedly glorified on TV and through all the stuff we watched, music videos and shit. And they were fucking pussies. They were fucking bitches. They were weak. Why? Because they would consistently have the same fucking problem. They would always they would always consistently be looking for happiness in the same place they lose it. So they would look for happiness in the same place they consistently lose it, come to tears about it, and then just cover themselves in tattoos and look all tough. But it's like, okay, motherfucker, I see how weak you guys are. I'm gonna change all this shit. And my last big battle is my reaction, the way I'm reacting lately. And like I said, straight, not straightened. So we're gauging our progress as we're getting better. But it's not gonna fucking happen overnight. And the whole prison shit it's just, I wanted to tell people, like one of my last videos was called Fake Hard. Like that's what the fuck it is.
But we look at these prisoners with all the tats, they've been in there 30 years, they're from some gang and somewhere else, and you look at those same guys and say, behind closed doors, they're weak because they're going after drugs, and then they're crying about the circumstances, and you saw a lot of that.
We're all gonna have to learn the lesson until we finally learn the lesson. But Jesus Christ, you're gonna cry about it, miss your family.
What did you see?
And do that for 30 fucking years? Everyone just, massive stabbings, mostly just the drug use. Mostly the heroin and the speed use that just leads to a lifetime in prison. The revolving door, like they don't wanna do it. Like they'll be like working out with me and they'll be like, I feel so good, it's so good, Wes, I feel great. And I know they do. And then they just have that drop. I go to bed early. And then I wake up and I see one of the homeboys, like one of my people that I work out with. And I could tell he's on shit. And I'm like, you fucking motherfucker, what'd you do that for, you know? And you could tell he's just miserable. And so it just always, I would see that weakness. And I'm like, dude, call yourself a bitch. And I did it to myself. I relapsed on meth when I was in prison. I didn't do it for like 4 or 5 years. And I drank some wine, some prison wine. And then I was selling dope in there at the time, selling white and selling black, you know, and having everyone push it for me. And I just did a bump one day of some speed. And then I started drinking some wine, like some prison Pruno, you know. And then I'm like, fuck, dude. Then I started getting on my cell phone and I'm like on fucking looking at shit like I'm acting like I'm back at the fucking club, you know. And it wasn't 2 weeks later that it ended fucking bad as fuck for me. Like bad as fuck. Like I ended up beating the shit out of my bunkie over something small. some words he said. I did it in the wrong area next to another race, and then I had to get my ass beat by 2 of my own people that I had fucked up before individually. So the point was it came back around real fucking quick. And then I just had to look at myself and be like, you're being a fucking bitch. And that's why I tell people that. That's why I use that word bitch a lot. That's why I say quit being a bitch. And the people who fucking win and my type of motivation are my type of people. I can only share what worked for me. Like the foolish motherfucker shares some process he learned from someone else. I'm gonna tell you what worked for me.
What's a bitch mean? What does that qualify someone to make that?
Just a bitch, like someone who is just putting themselves through something they don't want, a set of circumstances that they don't want, and then fucking crying about it, bitching about it.
Their actions aren't congruent with their desires or mission.
Their daily habits are not in line with the future they desire.
Right.
Their daily habits are out of whack, and then they're wondering why it's happening to them. They're acting like it's happening to them.
Right.
It's like, you're fucking doing it.
Right. It's your internal choices. Yeah. All right. Give me the breakdown of the prison real quick, because you just went through a bunch of shit that people got to figure out. And it's taken me, I'd watched 40 videos and now I'm getting down. But all right, you go in. So you're choosing GP unless you want to be with the child molesters, and that's a whole nother problem and mess. So so say I got thrown in, right? I'm gonna have to go into GP, and I'm gonna have to go with the whites. Talk about how the races go down, and if it's racist or not. Explain all this to people, and then we'll get into the cell phones and all that.
You're gonna come rolling up. You're gonna have your bedroll. You're gonna have your all the stuff, your fish kit that they gave you. You're gonna come in the building, and a white dude's gonna come up. He's gonna talk to you. Oh, I'm Brian. They're gonna help you to your fucking cell or your rack, and then they're gonna ask you for your paperwork. It's going to be a 128G.
Paperwork is what?
Paperwork is your arrest charges, everything you've been charged for in the prison system. So they want to know who the fuck you are and what you're here for. And if you're here for a crime against kids, you're dead. And if you're here for a crime that's acceptable, then we're gonna work with you. You're gonna be part of our people. You have no choice. You're gonna be white. You're gonna be in this gang, and that's it.
This just crime against kids and this rapist stuff. Why is that non-negotiable in there? I know that maybe that's a silly question.
No, just because there's a bunch of, obviously it's despicable, but I mean, there's a bunch of people missing their family. There's guys missing their wives. There's guys never see their kids again. Right. And you were just touching someone's kid, and I'll never see mine again. You're fucking dead. Okay. I'll fucking kill you. Right. I'll never see fuck you, you know? And the thing is then the same thing of a rape on a woman, you know? And it's like, fuck, man, like, I'll never see my wife again. I'm gonna kill you.
Okay.
And that's it.
So I need to go the other side if that's true. But if I try to like sneak in, then they're going to find out with my paperwork and find out what's going on.
They're going to find out. And the whole thing is, even if you try to sneak in, they're going to use cell phones and they're going to find who you are.
Right. They can check me out
so
online.
So don't fucking try.
Right. What if I just say I'm going to go hang out with the black dudes or the Mexican dudes?
No, that ain't happening either.
They won't let me anywhere near
them. The blacks won't even let you. Like, no one's going to let you. It's segregated. The blacks are over here. They split up into their own cars, Bloods and Crips. The whites, Pisces, and Southsiders are on one side of the building. Okay. One side of the day room.
So the prison itself is segregated.
It's split, yeah.
Because they know if it's not, it's going to be mayhem.
That way. So the one side of the day room will be tables for white people, tables for Southsiders, tables for Pisces, which are Mexican nationals, people from Mexico.
Okay. And then Southsiders are from where?
They're Mexican American gang members. You know?
Okay.
So people from LA, San Diego, all the way up to everywhere, but in California. But they're the Mexican American gang, and then the Pisces are like the actual Mexican nationals from Mexico.
Okay.
And then so it splits up: Pisces, Southsiders, and whites on one side of the day room. The other side of the day room is the Northerners, which is the Northern Mexican gangs, Mexican Americans, and then it's the others, which are the Islanders, the Asians, and then the blacks. And that's how the buildings are split up. We will never use the same bars, the same showers, the same shitters, the same sinks. We'll never use the same stuff. Never the same table. We'll never drink or eat from each other. It's full segregation. Is it racist? No, I wasn't racist. I talked to a lot of blacks in there that I still talk to now, that I help with fitness stuff, and that we work together, and I'm like, oh, I'll show you how it's done. I want people to do good. I don't give a fuck. Like, I've never been racist. I've actually, broad generalizations are the epitome of ignorance, because every fucking skinhead and every dude in there who had a swastika on him, they always said, oh, well, that one black guy's cool. Like, that one's cool. I'm like, dude, you don't believe in math then, motherfucker. If that one's cool out of 200, well, then there's 1 million in the world that are cool to you. So you're not racist. I guess we just figured out that you're not. So you can take that shit off, walk the fuck away, and we just realized that broad generalizations are bullshit. No prisoners are all like, no white guys, no black guys, no bankers. No people from London. San Diego, my bad. But we're all the same kind of. We want to surf and shit. But.
All right, and so the segregation happens itself is for security reasons. And that's why it's always going to be like this, because it sounds like the South in the 1930s, and it's weird for people to hear that people aren't using the same bathrooms. But it's set up that way because that is what keeps everybody alive.
It keeps it safe. It's political. These are the politics. Like, I can police my people. You police your people. And I don't like the fucking word police. You control your people, I'll control my people. That's the only way it works. And that's the only way, like, a black can't prey on a white can't go fucking just start a fight with an Asian. They're all gonna jump. If you come start a fight with a white guy, they're all jumping. And then we have an alliance with the Southsiders at a lot of places. So if a black starts a fight with the white, it's fucking cracking off with 150 people.
And
so
you need the alliance because the white population is small in a lot of places.
If there's no alliance, then the small guy comes in and gets preyed on.
Right.
And instead he's got his people to back him up.
Okay, so that's how it breaks down. So when I walk in, someone comes up to me, checks my paperwork, gives me the bunk, and basically says what? What would Wes say to me?
Oh, see, I wouldn't say nothing to you. I'd send someone to talk to you. So I'd be on my bunk reading some sort of fucking super motivational, high power shit.
Which is what you used to do.
Yeah, and I'm reading some like stuff. I'm writing down quotes by hand, coming up with stuff. I was just introspective, like at a high level all day. And I'm doing my shit. And then so someone would come in, and the other person under me would know to go grab their paperwork, check it, and come talk to me about it. I might come talk to the person or not, And I would just literally, I would tell them maybe once or twice. I'd be like, if we ask you of anything, the answer is yes, or you know what fucking time it is. And that's it. And then if people grew and I started working out with them and shit, I grew friendships in there. Very few, but there were some.
Would you give me a list of rules? Don't do that, or is that implied? And what are those rules?
I mean, there's a shitload of rules. I mean, you got to work out every day. You got to be up at a certain time. I mean, you got to fucking shower. You got to make every unlock. I mean, you can't eat from blacks. You can't share food with anyone on the other side of the day room at all. You can't sit at certain tables. You can't walk certain paths. You can't use certain exercise equipment. So, I mean, it's just...
And why are these rules in place? Why do I have to work out? Why do I have to get up early?
We got to strengthen you. I mean, it's basically what I'm selling out here. I'm going to strengthen you. I'm going to create self-worth in you. If you're just sitting there all day, fuck, man. If you're just sitting there all day in prison, you're going to be pretty depressed. People out here are in prison because they just sit there all day. They don't realize that they're creating their internal feelings about themselves through their conduct and their actions. That's why I force myself up. Even if I don't want to, I know if I get up and go work out, I'm going to fucking feel great about myself. I'm going to get that win. So we're just forcing them to stack wins so that they don't feel like losers.
Also, you want me doing burpees in there because if a riot kicks off, I need to have the cardio to fight.
We need the cardio. It's militant. We need the cardio. We're in the shoe in most places we'll count while we're doing burpees. So it's not just burpees, it's burpees with counting so that your win gets real up so that you're not a fucking you're not a liability when the riot happens. So we don't have to pick you up. You don't fucking die.
All right, so it's military. It's militant.
Yeah, straight militant.
And you're doing a roll call, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing that. If you break one of those rules,
You break one of those rules, the severity usually is a DP where you get beat up by two of your own people. But if it's bad enough, you get stabbed,
Right, okay. And then, when do the real problems happen? When people start getting into these drug debts.
The real problems are the drug debts and the fucking...
There's drugs in prison. Most people don't even understand that.
Shitloads.
Okay.
You get more drugs in there than you can out here,
Are most people on drugs in prison?
Everybody, yeah.
Really? And that's because it's...
Because they're not creating worth within. Same reason someone wants to go drink. They're looking for an external solution to an internal issue. That internal issue is you don't have self-worth, motherfucker. You didn't get up and earn that shit, bitch. No wonder you feel like a bitch. You treated yourself like one. Like, you were seeking external fucking solutions to internal issues. You beat that internal issue by fucking strengthening yourself internally. The issue's still gonna be there. It's never going away. That issue you have from when you were a kid is never fucking going away. Strengthen yourself to be able to take it. And you strengthen yourself from within with your conduct, with your character, solidifying your core beliefs with your self-talk. No, I'm not a bitch. I don't back down. I do see shit through. I am fucking just... Fortitude is what I'm about. I'm not about the aesthetics. I'm about the process. I'm about long view. I'm about pushing when it's impossible. I turn the timer on when I can't do no more. When I can't even go one more second, the timer turns on then. When you're in the shoe and everyone's fucking knocking on the door, they're fucking screaming, they're banging, they're like, fuck this, it's been too damn long. And they're pissed about shit. I'm just taking all their fucking frustrations within and letting it empower me. Like, I'm not even gonna crack. I'm not even gonna bend. You're gonna see me come out stronger. Like, your self-talk just becomes who you are. Like, you're creating who you are. You're creating who you are with your strengths and your weaknesses are created from your thoughts and your actions. And so, I mean, create who you want to be with your thoughts and your actions. Second, you have negative self-talk, extinguish that fucking shit.
How long did it take you to figure all this stuff out in there?
It was just...
Was there a defining moment? Was it something you read? But when did you get to where you had this daily process that you could stick to?
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.